G'day guys, it's Mark here from North Oz, and in today's video I'm going to be installing a set of BC Racing coilovers into my 2012 WRX. So I've done a video about the walk around of the WRX, some plans as well that I have for it. The very first thing that needs to be done is the suspension. The suspension is leaking, it's not in a good state, it squeaks, it carries on, it creaks, it's not good. It's been on the car for 10 years. Over 200,000 kilometers, it's done well, so now it's time for an upgrade. Just a quick disclaimer guys, I purchased these with my own money, so these are not sent to me, I'm not being paid to say anything about these coilovers. I saw that they were pretty cheap and a good budget option, so that's why I went with it, and I will be giving you guys my long-term review on these as well. So it helps to know that I'm not being paid to say anything about these coilovers, and if anything is ever sent to me for free, I will always tell you guys. All right, with that out of the way, now the fun part. Let's unbox these and we'll see exactly what we get with the kit. I'm excited to see how it looks, and I'm excited to get these old shocks out of there so that we can replace it with something a little bit newer, a little bit more shiny, because that WRX has deserved it, especially after all the kilometers it's put on that stock suspension. Box in a box situation. Oh yes, look at that. So included with the kit, you'll get the two rear coilovers and then the two fronts. The fronts have camber adjustment as well, which you can see there. And yeah, the camber top hats can be very handy. And then the rears do have just some dampening adjustments as well, just like these do here. Cool. So the next thing will be to get this car jacked up and get those wheels off, and then get the old suspension out, whack the new ones in. We'll see how we go. Alrighty guys, this is what you're going to need for the install. You're gonna need a jack, you're going to need a jack stand, you're gonna need maybe a smaller jack or something just to lift up the rotor. You can always use your legs, but it is quite heavy. We've got some anti-seize as well, which is super handy. Put that on everything and it'll make everything so much easier to take on and off, especially for wheels. And I've got a 12 mil here, a 19 mil. So the 12 mil is pretty much for everything except for basically the big bolts on the suspension, which I'll show you in a little bit as well. And the 19 mil is for the two big bolts on the front suspension. We are just talking about the fronts at the moment. Of course, you need a 19 millimeter spanner as well to hold it so it doesn't spin when you are twisting the bigger bolts. I've just got a screwdriver, but if you've got a hole punch or something that can just poke those bolts out, that'll be handy. And I've also got a tire iron as well, just to break those nuts before you lift up the car. Just some scissors and a zip tie as well, just to get the ABS line out of the way is going to be good and handy. And I've also got a rubber mallet. When I'm putting the tires back on, I'll use my impact gun as well. But you do not need that for this install. I'm doing everything by hand, and I actually recommend to do that by hand as well. And I've just got a rag as well, because I will be soaking some of them in just some WD-40, so you'll need that as well. And that's pretty much it, guys. So there is a little bit there, but I mean, it makes sense once you start working your way through it. So I'm just gonna get this wheel off now, take everything off, and then pretty much show you what bolts you'll need to undo, and then get the stock suspension out and put the new ones in. So let's do it. So if you're a little bit unsure about where to jack your car up from, there are really only two jack points that I can see. So this is one here, you'll see it's basically a little gap in the side skirt and it's a little pinch weld there. So just make sure whatever you're jacking up onto, it is metal and you should be fine. And yeah, and there's going to be a similar one in the back there as well when we get to it. So if you're just wondering, you're a bit like me, you weren't too sure where it was when I started, you'll just try to look for the pinch weld and you'll be fine. right now guys, we just need to remove some of the bolts. So we've got these 3 12mm bolts we need to take off there. And down here, we've got some more 12mm bolts. So we've got that one there, which is going to be your brake line. And we've got your ABS line that we need to take off there also. And then we've got our 2 19mm bolts that we need to remove there as well. And then once we finish that, we should have a pretty clear access and pretty clear path to get this whole strut assembly out, this whole shock out, and then input our new one. And then we just put the bolts in the exact same order. Just make sure that you put these off to the side and you know what order they're in. So which one's top, which one's bottom, which one's your ABS, which one's your brake, just because, you know, they are different kind of shaped bolts as well. And you always want to put the same bolts back where you can. And now I'm just going to tie ABS line just out of the way, just for a minute, just for when we are going to be wrestling with this shortly. So before I go and have some lunch, I'm going to just spray that bolt there and that bolt there. So they're your 2 big ones there. I'm just going to go ahead and spray them and then have some lunch for a little bit, let that soak in. So that way it will, it'll be nice and easy to take off when I get back. Pretty simple to reach the back. All you have to do is just take off your rear mat area and then just unclip this here, which is just, you know, just holds a few of your tools and bits and pieces. And also there is a little cubby that you just need to remove there. Subaru make it pretty easy to reach these top strut nuts. So all you have to do is just really just remove that. It just clips out, requires a bit of force, and then you'll have access to remove those nuts. trying to remove some bolts to get access to the suspension and remove it and install our new suspension. So we just need to get rid of that bolt there, that one there, and this one here. So the one on the left there, this is the right side of suspension. So the one on the left there is a 14mm, and then we've got two 17mm that we need to remove. Very similar to how we removed it in the front. And in the top here, we've got two 14mm bolts just to remove their nuts to remove.
So here we go. Mark has just installed all of his wonderful super duper shocks. And we're going for a drive.
Alright.
Squeak.
Something's a bit squeaky. Definitely a squeak.
You may not be the shock.
Oh no, I think that's okay. That was there before. Alright, we'll try the roundabout. Alright, let's try and find a speed bump. Alright, where can we find a speed bump? Well, so far so good. No scrapes. So that's a good thing.
And you're going to check, what are you going to do now?
We're going to go and hit some speed bumps and see if we scrape, because I'm a little bit dubious that the front is a little bit too low. Oh, feels good to me.
Perfect.
Feels good to me. All right, we got another two coming up here.
Double speed bump.
Double speed bump. Double trouble. Here we go. This one's bigger.
Feels tight.
Yep. Feels good?
Yep.
Okay, so we need to do a tight turn now. So I reckon... Got grease all over me. I just stuck my hand in a big pile of grease on my shirt. Ramp onto the 80 and we'll see how it feels.
I might take it for a drive too.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We'll see. Feels good. Feels fast.
Feels solid.
Feels really fast.
Nice shocks these.
They're really nice, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm quite surprised. And this is like halfway soft, halfway stiff. So
yeah.
we can go softer, we can go stiff, which is good because
Yep.
what's old mate doing here? Feels a little bit rough. It's definitely bouncing us around a little bit. Really have a good point of comparison because the shocks and you know suspension I pulled out of the WRX, they're broken. You know, they're leaking. They're 200,000 kilometers old. Like, so I don't really have a point of comparison for how it should feel. You know.
Well, I've driven a lot of cars in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And I think that these feel pretty solid.
Yeah, they feel really nice.
And I think that how it's not uncomfortably hard.
I reckon it'd be good on a track, eh?
Yeah, it would. And I mean, you can always tighten it up a bit more for a track.
Yeah.
If it's a smooth track. Don't forget these roads have got lots of bumps in them and all that, so you'll feel that.
Yeah.
And I mean,
all right, Yui time, here we go.
I mean, we're not driving a limousine here. You know, it's designed to. That's good.
No rub on full lock.
That's good.
Good. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And on a track like you're going to get much better conditions.
Yeah, it'd be smoother.
Yeah.
I mean, the advantage you have now with this suspension being so tight is that it improves cornering safety. So you're safer on corners.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And like when we start putting some rear sway bar in it, stuff. It'll be a lot better as well.
Yep.
Lower control arms as well will be up soon. The ones on that are stock look pretty rubbish. They're like just sheet metal. You know, they don't look great. It definitely feels like it puts down the power a lot better too because it's not squatting.
Yeah.
Like I've always felt that when I was, putting a little bit of bunty into it, it would always just squat down a little bit more.
Yep.
But it feels like it's putting down the power like straight away, which I didn't think suspension would do. But it makes sense, doesn't it?
It does.
Not getting as much movement, it's a lot stiffer. Feels good. Wheel doesn't feel off at all in terms of alignment. I think it might list a little to the left. I mean, $1,300 for full set of suspension.
It's pretty good.
It's not bad.
Saved a lot of money putting it on yourself.
Oh, they were going to charge like $800 to
and that's fair enough because it's a good 4 hours work.
Yeah,
5 hours work in that.
Yeah. Oh, I don't doubt that. Yeah. So guys, we just came back from our test drive and everything worked really well. We did a couple of speed bumps, U-turns like you saw. No bumps, creaks, rattles, scrubbing, nothing. We're good. I'm very happy with it. For whatever reason, I was a little bit concerned that everything was going to fall apart and it was all going to, go bad. But it didn't. It actually went really well. And I kind of surprised myself a little bit. So we'll see how things go in the long term. I'll update you guys as well, whether or not I think that these coilovers are worth it over the stock suspension. But anything is better than that stock suspension, guys. It was leaking and it was bad. It was bad news. So the new suspension is great. The ride height is awesome. I'm a little bit concerned. I don't want that ride height to settle much more than what it is. I know that the springs will take a little bit of time just to settle over the next couple of days. So I'm hoping that it's not too low. As it is right now, it looks really good. I'm super happy with it. I didn't even change any of the settings out of the factory, out of the box from BC. So I just literally took them out of the box, put them straight on, and I'm very happy. I do wonder though how they'll go with 18-inch wheels, whether or not I'll need to lower them as well, because I am thinking about upgrading from the 17s to the 18s. But we'll think about that and we'll talk about that as time goes on. But yeah, overall guys, really happy with the coilovers. It feels really stiff, especially when I'm hitting those bumps. I'm knowing that the bumps are there, but it's not jarring through the cabin like it did with my old suspension. So pretty interesting. And I'm only on right in the middle of the softness setting. So as you guys saw, there's a little adjustable little knob there. And I just put it to halfway and I'm going to play around with it, put it on really soft, put it on really hard, see how it goes, play around with it a little bit until I'm happy with how it feels. So if you're someone and you're not too sure about whether or not this project is something you can handle, I have no experience working on cars really at all. I mean, I've installed a couple of roof racks and stuff and really basic stuff, and that's about it. So I put all the tools that I used for this video in it. So in the video, so you guys know exactly what tools I used. I just used basic tools as you guys saw, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. there were a couple of hiccups that I didn't quite document very much. I did put in the captions though. There were a couple little hiccups, like the right side front was a lot easier than the left side front. And I think it's because the left side front had a blown shock and there was grease everywhere, which made it really difficult for me to handle the suspension and to try and wedge it out, to force it out. It didn't like it at all. So the right side for me was a lot easier, but the left side was definitely a lot more difficult. And the rears for me, both of the rear shocks were so easy to take out. If I wasn't filming, I could probably knock out both of them in about 45 minutes. And, it's just so much easier because there's no ABS lines that are actually on the strut assembly, and there are no brake lines on the strut assembly, unlike the front. So a little bit more stuff around the fronts. But yeah, that rear was really easy to do, but the fronts was a little bit more complicated. And I didn't have any issues with having too much grease and stuff all over the shocks for the rears, but that front left shock was well and truly blown out. If you guys want to do a similar project, there's 2 tips I have for you. 1, don't use any electric tools. The reason why is when I was tightening the ABS mount and the ABS screw, they didn't make the mount far enough and the bracket plate far enough away from the strut assembly. So as I was tightening that ABS screw and bolt, it was actually pushing that bracket further and further away. It was starting to break off. So if I just rattle gunned it in, it would have snapped off that assembly for sure. So I ended up just doing it tight enough so it will just stay where it is. It's not going to go anywhere, and I will check it as well. But if I just put it all the way through and actually torqued it to probably what they should say, it would have been, which was probably about 14 pound-feet. If I did that, it would have snapped off that assembly. The second issue I ran into, guys, was having the front left suspension leaking. It made it really difficult to work with. I had grease and stuff all over my hands. I couldn't get a grip on the strut. It just wouldn't come out, and then it was leaning on I think it was a CD boot it was leaning on, and I was freaking out because it was making noises. I was starting to get a little bit panicked. I managed to get it out in the end, but yeah, it made it very difficult. So the front left side for me was a lot more difficult than the front right. And yeah, so that was just another thing I ran into, was just trying to get it out. When you guys are trying to get these struts out, make sure that you twist it to how it was, because what happens is as you break those nuts, what's going to happen is the strut, as you're wiggling it out, the strut's going to twist a bit. So if you're trying to get that strut out, just straighten it up to how it was when you first unbolted it, and then you'll be able to remove it a lot easier. Don't do what I did, which I was trying to twist it and move it. That wasn't great, and it didn't help at all. So once you kind of orientate it in the position that it should have been, and the way that it was, makes it easier to remove. But the rears were fine. I had no issues with the rears. You guys could probably do that in 45 minutes. But yeah, with the fronts, it took me a little bit more time because there's a few more brackets and that on it. Alright guys, that's about it. So thank you so much for watching. If this video helped you out, make sure you like it. And if you want to subscribe as well and follow the build, go ahead and do that as well. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.